I was so frightened of him. He was threatening me, threatening to hit me and abuse me and to kill me. It was the threats of killing that made it so bad, as I couldn't stand. I thought, any minute now, it will come.
And gradually became to once a month, maybe I'd have a good hiding. But in the last 12 months, I was getting beaten regularly and really badly, you know. I felt that if I didn't do something, you know, they'd be putting me in a box and carrying me out through the door in a box.
It could start dinner time, tea time, any time,
or somebody
you know.
upset him at work,
yeah,
you know, when he comes home, yeah.
Well, I mean, Sunday lunch, for instance, this is how silly and ridiculous it is. Because he had boiled potatoes instead of roast potatoes. He threw the dinner at me.
I knew I could never beat him. He's tall, but he's not big. But he's violent in drink. He's not responsible for what he does in drink.
Well, in my force, in Dyfed Powys, in the last 10 years, we've had something like 31 murders, and about 42% of them we would class as domestic murders, and of those, we've had some 10 women killed, so which again is about 33% of the total. So it's quite high. It's a third of all murders in Dyfed Powys are women being killed. So of course it is serious.
Why are you afraid to be identified in front of the camera?
Because my ex-husband could come and persecute me, and I fear about this.
How long have you been separated from him?
4 years.
And yet you're still afraid that he might come after you?
That's right, that's right.
Why is that?
The years as I spent with him and the cruelty and persecution that I was under, I'm still afraid. That really stays with you. I'm still afraid of it.
How long were you married for then?
24 years.
So it's 24 years before you left him?
That's right. At the end it got so bad, he was threatening me to kill me, so I had to leave.
I think one of the worst cases is where you've got violence that isn't drink-related, when it can be sadistic and very, very unpleasant and very frightening for women who have had to escape from that situation. A lot of women have put up with systematic violence over a number of years. Every Friday night he goes to the pub and gets drunk and beats me up, and I have to lock myself in the bathroom with the children. This sort of thing often goes on for a number of years until the pattern of violence will change slightly, and perhaps the children will become involved for the first time, which will make her move out of it. I don't think that violence, woman against a man, is on that sort of regular basis. I think it tends to happen, in my experience, on the odd occasion where there's an argument. Those arguments may be frequent, but it certainly isn't a regular pattern. And I don't think I've ever had a man coming into the office and saying, as women do, I know he's going to come home from the pub and whatever I've done is wrong.
You know, like they say, when they come in the evening, they say, oh, you're moaning about the kids and this, that, and that, right? You stop moaning about the kids, or you try not to. When the kids run you ragged all day, but you try not to moan. And then And then you think, oh, it must be my fault. I must go and see somebody about this. So you go to marriage guidance, you go to advice centres, you go to your solicitor, you go to your doctor, and then you go to social services. And my doctor was no good at all. And I went to social services, and he said, now, you go home, be a good girl. His exact words, go home, be a good girl, and cook him a nice meal. And I thought, oh, no. I just burst out crying. I thought, this is the end, there's nothing.
Yeah.
I went to the doctor in a dreadful state myself, mentally and physically. I was pretty poorly by the time I went. And I asked him if he could offer any help for my husband, with his problem. He obviously had a problem. And he told me that I couldn't ask for any help. The person to come to him for help would have been my husband, to try and persuade him to come down and see him. But he wouldn't. He wouldn't go. He was convinced there was nothing wrong with him at all. That the violence was acceptable, As his woman, he was entitled to beat me.
Other agencies fail to help. Women's Aid is the only voluntary organisation which can advise or provide a place of safety for a woman and her children.
A refuge is a breathe-in space where a woman can have the time to sit and think about what she wants to do. What she herself wants to do, what maybe her family would influence her because of the children to go back. Whereas when she's in here, away from everybody, she gets the time to make the decisions herself, which is what we always, tell them to do. They must make their own decisions. We don't try and influence them at all.
A 1976 report recommended a minimum of 50 refuges in Wales, yet there are still only 26. And even these are under threat because of a funding crisis caused by local authorities.
Hello, Women's Aid, can I help you?
Refuges are run on a self-help basis. Advice and counselling is given by volunteers and workers who've often been in the refuge themselves. Last year in Wales alone, more than 1,000 women and 1,500 children had to escape from violent partners. Though classed as a temporary place of safety, they often have to endure these crowded conditions for over a year.
Come on then, in quickly.
Councils often don't accept battered women as homeless, so many will eventually be forced to return home to a violent situation.
Right then, this will be your bedroom. You can use this wardrobe. Do you want to take your coats off, kids? And then we've only got 2 bedrooms, but we have 9 beds.
Whichever bed.
Sometimes we've got up to 3 families in a room. It all depends on how many children the woman has got. Ideally, it would be nice to have 1 family in each bedroom, but the demand is so high that you can't turn a woman away. It's our policy not to turn a woman away. Right, we'll sit down. Right, well, you'll be safe enough here now, and the kids can still carry on, go to school. What we'll do in the morning is give the headmaster a ring and sort the school out for you and explain to the headmaster what's going on. And then we can get you off to school.
And I think it's awful when the kids see the violence, and perhaps that's what our child worker, that's why we need a child worker so much in the refuge, because we sort of see to the needs of the women, don't we? Mm-hmm. And the child worker can see to the children and show, or we try and show them that there aren't men, all men are like that. That it's not a good thing to copy their fathers, portraying the violence, etc.
I think with my 2 boys that if I'd have stayed with my ex-husband, the kids would have grown up and just accepted that hitting a woman was okay. I think since I've left in the past 4.5 years now, that they've altered my 2 because they know that hitting a woman is wrong. And they know that doing little jobs around the house isn't girlish and things like that. And I think in my 2's case, it was the best thing I ever done was leave.
I think again is how you get brought up. Like I got hammered all the time with my father, a nasty man. He hit me with a cabbage stump. If I'd done anything wrong, and he was a nasty man. I only talked to him. I mean, and then I'm very quick-tempered. I'm very fast-tempered.
Well, because of that?
Because of that, and, you know, that's what, like, when I'm home now with my girlfriend, I'm quick-tempered and I pick things up quick, you know, because of that. You know, I think it's how you get brought up. And then if you get brought up hard, and you kind of get nervous and quick-tempered, you know, you don't give a chance. Like.
This is something strange to me to hear, you know, to hear that people who have been violent, you know, in their youth by their parents, that they are violent themselves. I didn't quite realise this. You know, I thought people were violent because they've got that violent streak in them. You know, you've got rogue people in all societies. You know, and it's something that you've, as you know, in work, that you've got to try and eliminate the rogue for the better of society. I think, you know, threw you away. You know, through counselling him, and to get rid of his violence, in my way, through sport. Get rid of his aggression through training and through sport. And channel all his aggression into doing something useful for society. And I think sport is a good way to start him off. That's what, you know, that's the way I'm here. You know.
The vast bulk of our work is to do with domestic violence. A lot of men come to us because their wives have left them. I should say as many as a third. One or two come because their wives insist, and I think the rest come because they feel they can't cope with the situation anymore. They're very, very unhappy about what's going on and want to make changes, but, well, there isn't anybody else. Really, they need to come to us. Do you find that you treat women differently than you did before?
I somehow I was, I wouldn't say actually brought up to be like this, but somehow I got the impression that women had feelings and men didn't. Women in some sort of way were allowed to be uncontrolled, and men had to keep their thumbs on the situation. And now I realise that that's not true. I can have feelings, and it's all right if women know about them. And all right, so there's a lot of competent women about in the world, and it's no threat to me.
What does being a man mean to you?
Being hard. You know, I'm just one of those lucky people to be hard, like. You know, a lot of people are not so hard, like, and, you know, I mean, I don't get pushed around like other people, you know, and, but I don't take advantage of it. You know, I don't say boo bad to anybody. But when it comes, and hard is, you've got to look after yourself, like. That's hard to me. You know, as I say, I've...
So what do you think about men who aren't hard, then?
Aren't hard? Listen, to me, I wouldn't pick on anybody. I don't pick on anybody.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're soft or hard. If you're hard, you're hard. You just have to be lucky, like.
Yeah.
If you're soft, it's one of those things, like.
Yeah.
But you can be hard. You haven't got to be softy all your life, like. I mean, if you want to be big and strong, you just have to train to be big and strong. But then you get a lot of aggression and nasty, like, you know, once you get really fit, because you can't keep still in the house. You've got to do something all the time.
Well, my experience, they don't have to be macho men to beat a woman, the same as they don't have to take a drink to beat a woman. They can be perfectly teetotal, you know, and they just... I mean, if we're going to sort of grade men into categories, you know, what kind of men batter women, we couldn't answer that question to a certain extent. I mean, well, we know what contributes towards it, but whether they're macho or whether they're timid little men at the office, or they keep fit fanatics at the gym is, you know, is irrelevant.
Well, that's when it goes, isn't it? Your husband's not the same person out as he is in the house.
That's right.
People used to say to me, God, you're really lucky to have him. He's a great fella. I said, what? To know him.
No, I know, I just get a feeling the same. You've been in a pub and they think, oh, he's a great fella. Just sit and think, well, you don't go home with him, I do. You don't know the other side of him.
Well, I think domestic violence has no boundaries or no class barriers or anything at all, and it happens everywhere, and that is the sad truth about it. But We have got, obviously, the same problems in this area in many other areas. I'm not saying it's a problem out of hand, but any woman has been abused. Even one woman, that's a problem. But yes, it does happen over the whole spectrum of society. Well, I think obviously in the past few years, where perhaps unemployment, particularly in this area, it plays a part. There are many factors, and perhaps the expectations of people are higher these days than they used to be, and perhaps, yes, it is increasing somewhat. Or it's getting more publicised, perhaps. I don't know, perhaps it's always been there, but it's certainly been more publicised these days. That's got to be a good thing, so because that's the way we can do something about it.
What is the true extent of this hidden crime, and what is the real cost to society? Do violent fantasies portrayed in the media encourage violence in reality? It was only 15 years ago that wife battering was made illegal, but has anything really changed in the home?
A woman is a slave for a man. She's a toy, a plaything, that she can be used either sexually, physically abused, any way at all. It's just they just need to be in complete control. Every couple argue. So I mean, I could accept somebody flying off the handle and, you know, losing their temper. But I mean, we're not talking about that, are we? No. We are talking about constant battering all the time. This is what we're talking about here. It's not a one-off, lose your temper. And it's always, apparently, for no reason at all.
From time and time again, it's always how the men sort of get around you, you know, after the pleading, the crying, and what they think is their right. Like for instance, when you said, Corinne, where after he'd beaten you up, he wanted to make love to you, or he called it love, you called it just pure rape, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was rape within marriage, isn't it? And, you know, they thought that's going to be all right. You know, you're black and blue, and you're bruised, and you've got this man on top of you. And he's just not looking at that side of it.
I mean, his favourite thing, I mean, you would get a really good beating. I mean, you might have your eyes all swollen, your lips cut and things like that. But more or less you're shaking and you feel sick, and then he'd say, come and sit on my lap, love, and you do it. You have to do it because you think, well, if I don't, I'm going to get it worse, you know. And you just go through the whole course of it and just grit your teeth. And
It's
just
just another way of dominating women. I mean, they know...
Power.
Yeah, we haven't got the physical strength to fight him off when we get clout of him or something. And it's the same when it comes to sex. You know, if they want it, there's not a lot we can do to stop them. They're physically stronger than us.
What happens behind closed doors, a lot of people don't want to know about. People don't talk about it anyway. It's a bit like talking about your sex life or something like that, that people don't go around saying, my husband hits me or my wife has hit me. And I think that trying to enforce any sort of law within the home situation is very difficult. And I don't think it's been viewed as a crime at all. It's just something that goes on between parties. It's their life, let them get on with it. And it's only when someone else is going to start complaining about it that anyone outside is going to take any action at all.
It's like the police now are actually campaigning for domestic violence to be seen as an act of violence, not as a home issue sort of thing. And they want men who break the injunctions, break undertakings, hopefully, that they are arrested on the spot and taken into custody, even if it's only for a few hours. But what they forget, at 4 o'clock in the morning, he's back out walking the streets.
Right, yeah. What about the one they give the bus fare for him to get to town?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he was on the next bus back out and beat it up again. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, in my area, we have something like 40% of the injunctions have got power arrest, which I suppose is quite high. On the other hand, there are 60% of the injunctions without a power arrest. So in terms of the women, I don't suppose they find that very satisfactory.
OK then. If you hold on there, don't go home, and I'll get somebody there as soon as I can, all right? OK then, bye.
I don't think you can legislate against domestic violence. I mean, the causes are so innumerable. But obviously, when we do go to a domestic situation, it's quite a cauldron when we get there usually. And the first thing we do, we must calm the situation down and then try and reason with both parties to see what has gone on for in the beginning, and then to see if we can build from there. Obviously, if there's been any crime committed in the form of assaults, then usually the man will be arrested and taken back to the police station.
Did you ever ask him why he did it?
Yeah. But it was never an answer. Never willing to sit down and talk about it.
You see, I don't think that the men actually sit down and ask themselves the question. They can ask the wife, why did she do this or why did she do that? But they don't ask themselves, why am I doing this? Do I need help? You know, is there something wrong with me? That I am the way I am?
Yeah.
You know, or what is making me do this?
Has there got to be a reason?
Well, has there?
So what can women do to prevent violence? Or is learning self-defence the answer?
Yes, you know, they can look after themselves if they, you know, if they set their mind about it. If any woman is in a domestic situation, I'm sure that she can go to somewhere to get, you know, get lessons how to look after herself.
And I think that I mean, what you say about self-defence is true, I think. But what's more difficult is, I think, combating that idea that some women have got, that it's kind of like their role in life, if you like, to get thumped. And I think that's quite difficult.
A lot of women start doing different things, like training, you know, they go to these classes and judo classes and karate classes, they go to these fitness classes, right? But then the arguments start, then when their homes are not done. The man goes home from work, she's out at 6 o'clock till 7 and 9 till 10. The dinner isn't, then the washing starts, you know, and you don't get the right food, the cleaning isn't done. That's when a bloke starts getting nasty then. You know, when things ain't done in the house. You know, when a woman once she starts doing one thing, she likes to do another thing. And like a man, you know, I mean, I train in the morning, like weightlifting, I run in the afternoon, I swim in the night, and I change my different things. Because I got the time, because I'm, you know, as I say, I'm a professional. But if my young lady started doing all that, and I come home, I got 3 different types, she got to wash 3 times a day for me, you know. A pile of things every day. But when I come home and I got nothing there, like, it gets me nasty then, you know. I mean, you get things that go in, you shouting and bawling, like. And that's when you know, I give it a clip, and that brings them together then. When I think you've got to give them a clout now and again. Just pull them together, like. Or you just give them a shake, like, you know, but that doesn't do. But if you give them a clout, they don't say nothing. They go upstairs and start crying and things like that. And they come down and I go out, slam the door. But when I come home in the night, you find everything's done then. You don't have to tell her again for about a week. It starts going again.
What would you do if she had you back, though?
I'd just stand there. She'd get tired after a bit then.
If we're going to have a counselling service for women, we should have a counselling service for men. Obviously, some men have got real problems. I know in my force at the present time, Women's Aid have been invited, or are in the process of being invited, to lecture to some of our senior constables on the subject. So I think we are in a progressive light, and we are trying to play our part in this problem.
They kill any love that you have by their abuse.
What are you gonna do about this? Think before you raise your fist. Talk to your friends. Take your time. To beat a woman is a crime. To beat a woman is a crime.
He always said he loved me. He said he loved me, and that's why he hit me.
I don't know what love is. I don't.